hoped that if people engaged with my words today, that tomorrow it would be a new Black person. The next day would be a different Black voice.
Maya, Lawrence, and Owe have each been advocating online for racial justice.
Hi, my name is Owe Oniesle, and I live in Brooklyn, New York. Following the murder of George Floyd, I was having a really hard time. And I think for Black people, unfortunately, that was not a new occurrence, right? The unjust murder of a Black man by police. What was new for me, and I think for a lot of people, was the collective wave of attention, horror. I became the recipient of a lot of outreach, eagerness to engage in a discussion of my experience, particularly by the non-Black people in my life. As a Black man in this country, I didn't have the luxury of being shocked by the murder of a Black man. And so it was overwhelming to try to process my own emotions while also trying to process the individual surprise. I really believe that it's not the job of Black people to educate, but I think our existence and our POVs are in themselves education. And so kind of as a way to codify my feelings and my thoughts on the topic and invert the conversation from the many to one to the one to many, I decided to take to Instagram.
What type of reaction were you expecting, if any?
It was scary, right? Like I hadn't used Instagram historically in such a vulnerable way before. And so I didn't really know what to expect. But what I did know is that the surface level things that used to be a fun distraction for me on social media had become so impossible for me to even care about. This is an excerpt from one of the posts that says, "It's time we do the work while uplifting, resharing, and listening to Black voices. If you find yourself getting tired at any point, then take a second to think about how we feel." My call is for people to lean into the repetition of posting, reading, sharing, learning, unlearning, and put that on a cycle on repeat until we are all able to rest. The work isn't done.
I'm Lawrence. I'm from Connecticut. Maybe a week after George Floyd was murdered, I started having thoughts that I never had before, just around race relations, around my relationship with race. I want to really love photography. I'm also someone who loves to write. I was able to express myself through the combination of the two. I was doing it mostly for me as a part of my process.
Some of the posts that you ended up sharing turned into these public forums. I'm wondering if you felt like people chimed in who wanted to support you, but did it in a way that was largely unhelpful.
For sure. And I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. This is a very new space, I think, for a lot of people, talking about race so openly. And honestly, it's a new space for me to operate as well. And it'll take exploring some uncomfortable spaces, be those uncomfortable conversations, uncomfortable emotions.
Hi, my name is Maya Hislop. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I am an English professor at Clemson University. I teach African American literature.
What is notable to you about the role of social media in today's protests?
This is a good question for me because I think I hate social media. I guess everybody our age hates social media or has some kind of like tense relationship with it. But anything that's happening now is like on the shoulders of so many other movements. So social media is just the newest way. There have been protest movements and campaigns and petitions, and all of these techniques are old. I do think the conversation is moving so much more quickly because of social media. I was just thinking too about how beautiful the phrase Black Lives Matter is. Only people who grew up with the internet could have come up with that. It's for a generation of people who think in those terms, like da 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 da. It has to be said this much. There's a lot of potential for this generation to really take a number of issues on related to race and racism as their issues. All actual change happens in non-public forums. So what is the youth going to do when no one's watching, I guess is the question.